Hi everyone. Welcome to day 2 of HalloweenX. Yesterday we reviewed a bona fide Halloween classic, but today we're going to discuss something a little more broad. Animation can be happy and welcoming, but it can also be dark and scary. Delving into dark topics such as slavery, murder, divorce, violence, and many others. And this being the month of spooks and scares, I've picked out the 10 cartoon episodes that I've found the most disturbing of them all. The only rule is only one episode per show can be entered into this list. Without any further ado or delay, this is the top 10 disturbing cartoon episodes. Hope you enjoy. Before we begin, due to the macabre content of these episodes, I recommend that don't watch these by yourself. If any kids are watching this right now, don't watch these episodes by yourself. And if you think this video will frighten you, then feel free to just go ahead and skip it. I won't blame you. Okay, number 10. Let's start off with one of the most notorious examples with Invader Zim and its most macabre episode, Dark Harvest. In this episode, Sim goes around and harvests people's organs to try and make himself more human. In case you weren't already disturbed, Sim then replaces their organs with household items like inflatable pools and shock collars. And if that wasn't even enough, he then turns into a mechanical, fleshy monster and picks off the students one by one like a slasher villain. This episode is at the start of the list because it's way too much obvious of an obvious choice for the list. This episode has been rumored to have caused the cartoon's cancellation, and considering how dark and terrifying this episode really is, I honestly believe that to be true. But it's still, if you can handle the disturbing stuff, it's a good episode. Most of these episodes are good. They're just very, very disturbing. Alright, number 9. We have Courage the Cowardly Dog with King Ramses' Curse. I originally saw this one as a young kid as a bonus feature on both the DVD and VHS release of Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, and I was so distraught after watching it. This episode was so disturbing, macabre, and scary that I didn't want to watch it again until I was a teenager. In this episode, Eustace gets a hold of King Ramses' cursed stone tablet and plans to sell it. But then the ghost of King Ramses himself appears in the desert and orders Eustace to return the slab where he will suffer the consequences. When he refuses, King Ramses then sends the equivalent of the Egyptian plague from the Old Testament at Eustace and his wife, and of course Courage, ranging from flooding the entire house to using a tornado of locusts to eat them alive. And if that's not disturbing enough already, the episode ends with Eustace being mummified by Ramses' ghost and immortalized in his own stone tablet. Even now, this episode deeply disturbs me to my core. However, this is also my favorite episode of the entire show because it was willing to go so far to be dark and disturbing. So, in a bizarre way, I actually highly recommend it. But kids, don't watch it alone. Just don't. Number 8. Tom and Jerry Heavenly Puss. I was so torn between this and Blue Cat Blues for the list, but I had to choose this episode for being the darkest and most disturbing episode of Tom and Jerry that I have ever seen. While Blue Cat Blues may have the characters committing suicide by train, this episode just flat out kills Tom and a bag of drowned kittens as well? Jeez, that's dark! In this episode, Tom is killed by being smashed with a piano, and his soul takes an escalator to heaven, where he is told that he needs to get Jerry to sign a certificate of forgiveness, or he'll forever burn in hell. I can't put it any other way. After some standard slapstick and begging, Tom gets the signature, but unfortunately is too late and is sent to hell. It ends up being a dream in the end, which is the most cop-out terrible ending in all of cartoons. But it's still a pretty freaking dark episode, and one of the most infamous of the show. Number 7. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Foul Play in Funland. While the Mystery Incorporated series finale Come Undone was also pretty dark, Foul Play in I can't talk today, dang it. Foul Play in Funland is a pretty disturbing episode too, but for different reasons. In this surprisingly dark episode of the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You?, the gang investigates an abandoned amusement park when, out of nowhere, it comes to life before it's supposed to open, and they're suddenly chased around by Charlie the Robot, the series' very first monster that isn't a guy in a mask. Yes, they got that wrong with Zombie Island. Charlie was the first, not the zombies. Sorry to burst your bubble. Charlie the Robot is horrifying, and one of the best monsters in the franchise. With a static smile, his terrifying yellow eyes, his robotic movement, and having full control of the entire park. I mean, think about that. Imagine if this robot had control of an entire amusement park it could use to kill you. Yeah, pretty freaking scary. In the end, it turned out that his creator's wife made Charlie haywire because she didn't want robots to run the park, because she's biased for some reason. And then the next day, Charlie is turned good and pets Scooby as it ends. While not as dark as the other episodes on this list, Charlie the Robot makes this episode pretty disturbing and one of the best episodes of the original show. Number 6. SpongeBob SquarePants, I Was a Teenage Gary. There's been a ton of dark episodes of SpongeBob in the show's 20 years of existence. Well, is it 20 or is it 21 now? It's 21. Okay, 21 years of existence, excuse me. Ranging from the phenomenal Legend of Bikini Bottom to the ungodly awful Boating Buddies. Although I have, spoiler alert, an entire video already planned to tackle all these episodes, I gotta choose one of them for this list, and I chose I Was a Teenage Gary. I was once a teenage Gary, whatever. I'll keep this one brief since, again, I have a whole vid planned. In this episode, SpongeBob and Patrick travel to the annual jellyfishing convention in Ukulele Bottom for the weekend, leaving Squidward to take care of Gary. Unfortunately, Squidward forgets to, and Gary almost dies of malnutrition. Then it turns into a B-movie, when Squidward accidentally injects SpongeBob with snail plasma, and he later transforms into a sponge-snail hybrid monster, who then goes on to terrify Squidward and causes him to also become a snail as the episode ends, with him also getting a boot in the face by Patrick to add insult to injury. People have been calling this one of the worst episodes of pre-movie SpongeBob, but I disagree and really enjoy this episode. A standard episode that unexpectedly turns into pretty much an homage to Universal Monsters' The Wolfman. I highly recommend this episode, but just know the disturbing stuff when going into it. Number 5. The Amazing World of Gumball, The Joy. I love this episode so much, for a ton of reasons. For being both a parody and homage to George A. Romero's Dead series, for bringing some originality to the zombie genre to help it stand out above the rest, for not feeling too out of place in the show itself, for being the best episode of the entire show, and for being unafraid to be so disturbing and dark despite being a kid's show. I'm going to leave this brief and just recommend that y'all watch this one on your own, as well as watch Mysterious Mr. Enter's Disturbing Cartoon episodes list as well, because he also talks about this episode. Because once you watch that and you watch the actual episode, which I recommend you do both, then you'll understand why this one is here at number 5. I know it sounds very vague, but you gotta watch it first, okay? Gravity Falls, Weirdmageddon. I know I'm technically cheating since this is a 3-part finale, but I just can't keep this one off the list. Not only because it's an excellent finale to a fantastic cartoon, but because it's one of the most disturbing episodes that I've ever seen. After multiple setbacks and multiple episodes of failure, Bill Cipher reaches his final form and finally unleashes the fabled Weirdmageddon on the town of Gravity Falls, and it is horrifying. Ranging from people's faces being turned inside out and choking to death on their own eyeballs, to the town being overrun by horrifying monsters. Thankfully, Mabel and Dipper turn Bill to stone and save the town. This was disturbing because for 3 episodes, Bill literally opened the gates of hell on the town and killed, yes, killed, many of the residents of Gravity Falls. That's pretty dark. Number 3, Teen Titans, Haunted. I love the original Teen Titans. It's one of my favorite cartoons of all time, and my favorite, but also most disturbing, episode of the show is Haunted. In this incredibly dark episode, Robin is continuously beaten by his arch nemesis Slade. At first, you understand why Robin is angry at his team for not helping him in his fights with Slade. However, as the episode continues, we realize that Robin is slowly losing his mind because it turns out that Slade is haunting his mind and slowly breaking him to damage the Titans from the inside. I've never seen a superhero show, let alone one made for kids, be this disturbingly realistic with its depiction of PTSD and trauma caused by just one event. Thankfully, Robin is able to regain control and continue to lead the Titans into further future battles. But this is the most disturbing and darkest episode of a great cartoon. Number 2, Danny Phantom, The Ultimate Enemy. Danny Phantom is still one of the best shows of all time, even almost 20 years later. I mean, heck, I'm working on a Danny Phantom X Halo costume for Halloween this year, which you guys will get to see on the final days of this marathon on both channels. So, and The Ultimate Enemy is both one of the best episodes of the show and one of the most disturbing and darkest episodes that I've ever seen. In this episode, Danny travels to the future with Sam and Tucker, only to discover that the future is incredibly bleak and that his future self is the most evil ghost on the planet. Evil Danny destroyed the town, outright killed his friends and family, and has forced all of his remaining former allies into hiding, out of fear. And to make matters worse, Evil Danny traps Danny in his dimension to suffer the horrible repercussions of his future self's actions, while his evil self travels to Danny's dimension disguised as him and begins to destroy Danny's life. Just witnessing what Danny has to go through in this episode because of his evil self's actions is horrifying, and thanks to the show's incredibly sharp, excellent writing, we root for him to defeat his evil self and save the day. Thankfully, like most of these episodes, Danny does win in the end, and does become stronger as both a character and a hero. It's such a great episode of this phenomenal cartoon, but man is it dark and disturbing at the same time. Okay, we got one more. You guys ready? Are you guys sure you're ready for this? Okay, let's do it. Number 1, the number one most disturbing cartoon episode of all time is Legend of Korra, Venom of the Red Lotus. Let me make this clear. I do not hate Legend of Korra. I personally find it to be just a mediocre sequel to an excellent cartoon, Avatar: The Last Airbender, that is held back from greatness by an awful first season that suffers from a haphazard story, unremarkable characters, and way too focused on being adult and mature that it loses itself in its own ambition. However, the final 2 seasons are really good and much better than how it started. But Venom of the Red Lotus, the 2-part finale of Season 3, is the darkest, scariest, and most disturbing cartoon episode that I've ever seen in my life. In this 2-part episode, Korra is captured by the Red Lotus cult and is tortured to horrific extremes, being poisoned with mercury, forcefully bended into her bloodstream, and dang near killing her. Why do they do this? Well, the cult does this to awaken her avatar state, so they can outright kill her anyway and end the avatar cycle once and for all. I never thought I would ever be talking about torture in a kid's cartoon. But here I am. This two-part finale is so disturbing, macabre, dark, and bone-chilling that I literally couldn't watch it in one go, constantly pausing both episodes to process everything that was happening on screen, and accepting that this is all really happening in this episode. Korra is being forcefully tortured to the literal brink of death. How did this get aired on modern Nickelodeon? How did the FCC let this pass through any and all censorship and let it be shown on a kids' network? But the reason why this episode is number one over every other episode on this list is because, unlike every other episode on this list, the severe consequences of this torturous event carry on into episodes after it. Throughout season 4, Korra is sidelined, physically and emotionally broken, and traumatized by her torture at the hands of this sick and twisted cult that it literally takes until the series finale for her to come to grips with the trauma and rebuild her strength back. However, I'm glad they didn't censor the episode. But Venom of the Red Lotus, the most disturbing cartoon episode of all time. To be completely honest, though, I'm glad that we have all these dark and disturbing episodes of cartoons because it helps teach kids that it's okay to be scared no matter what age and that it's nothing to be ashamed of. While some may cross the line a fair bit, it's all about pushing the boundaries and teaching kids good lessons and morals. And honestly, most of these dark episodes show that no one's invincible to fear. Fear is just a part of human emotion and life, and it's nothing to be afraid or ashamed of. And if you're ever scared, don't be ashamed of it, because it is a part of life, and it's okay to be scared. It's a part of life. So, yeah. Anyway, well, thanks for checking out all these episodes with me today. I hope that you've been entertained and satisfied with your time spent on this video. And until day 3, I hope you all have a spooky day and take care. And one last thing for Chrissy, who I know is watching this. See y'all for day 3.